What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Monday, July 11th, and I'm excited to continue announcing that Pick Six is sponsored by Bud Light. That's right. Share a Bud Light with us as you listen along. Head to budlight.com/delivery now to order your Bud Light. Go get yourself some Bud Light. Budlight.com/delivery. I've got mine right here. Enjoying an ice cold Bud Light with my pals on this Monday, which means it's the off season. It's a Monday. It means it's time for a
Mailbag.
That's John Breach and Ryan Wilson. What's up, boys?
So Breach, Brinson's had so many Bud Lights over the weekend that he thought it was Monday, July 11th. It's July 12th.
I said the 12th.
Well, you can't blame him, Wilson, because Sunday was July 11th. And that's 7-Eleven, and 7-Eleven's always open. That's where Brinson gets his Bud Lights, and he's probably had 7 plus 11 of them over the past 24 hours. Who knows now?
7-2, not between 7-11, 7 plus 11.
Or maybe he was celebrating Patrick Peterson's birthday because that was also on 7-Eleven.
There you go.
We're celebrating responsibly, by the way.
Yeah, celebrate very
7 to 11 beers over the course of the weekend, not 7
the
plus
weekend.
11
The weekend.
Sure. Why not?
Did I really say the 11th?
You did.
My bad. Monday, July 12th.
We need to buy Brinson a calendar and put it on the wall back there so everyone knows that he has it. Because I don't even think Brinson knows what day of the week it is until Debo tells him before the show what day to say it is in the introduction.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you imagine
if Debo doesn't include what day is it in the rundown, I panic and grab my phone and then I'm
and make something up.
Yeah.
if Brinson wasn't doing this job, which he's been doing for the last decade, working in sports, I envision him probably selling expensive cars. Like he has a car dealership, like working at a Jaguar dealership or something, but always showing up late.
Are you kidding me? No. If Brinson didn't have this job, he'd live in the Grand Caymans betting on golf, and he'd have a $6 million condo.
Lackadaisical Jaguar salesman?
Just like you would be you would know what day it is. You come in on Sundays, even though you don't work. You work Tuesday to Friday.
I sell just enough Jaguars that I don't get fired from my job.
You're good at talking. So yeah, you're not getting fired. Your father-in-law owns the Jaguar dealership, so you're not getting fired. You're just in and out of there, riding around in a golf cart throughout the Jaguar lot, hitting things.
If things get real.
If Brinson didn't have this job, he'd have another job that he's barely good at to keep. That is what Ryan's saying.
Have you seen that meme
barely good
on Twitter? It's like, what's the worst compliment you've ever received? Well, I think I just got mine.
There it is. There it is.
What's the worst compliment you guys have ever received?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Oh my God.
Mine is usually something along the lines of, "Oh, you look very different than I thought you would."
Right. Yeah. That would be mine for you too. I don't know. I have to think about that. Has anyone ever thought you were taller than you actually are, Breach?
Oh, I get that. That's probably the only thing I ever get. Oh, you're that short? Because we all look the same height on the podcast.
Wilson, do people who ever think anything different about you based on the podcast radio?
100%. Someone thought that I looked like Joe Dirt in real life, and then they saw me. They're like, "What is going on?" Of course. Yeah, that's comparing me to Joe Dirt is not a compliment, by the way. So I don't know what the most.
That's why it's the worst compliment you've ever received.
But it's not a compliment. It's just like an observation that I thought was funny. I don't know the most backhanded compliment I've ever received is.
I mean, the assertion that when people say that to me is that, "Oh, I thought you would be fatter in real life."
Yeah. Well, you have a deep voice.
Yeah.
Are you taller than Breach?
Yes.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
But
everyone except for Pete Blackburn's taller than me, and Prisco. Two
Pete's
Pete's.
shorter than you. Yeah.
Pete, and then me.
All right. There you go.
Okay. So if you want to check out more podcasts in the feed, we have the Super Friends. The three of us, the Super Friends, rank the division. We do a power ranking of all the divisions in the NFL. Coming up. Oh, we're that deep in July, huh? Franchise tag extension deadline.
Yes.
In the words of Jeremy Piven from PCU, watch out. It's a scorcher.
Well, that's a throwback.
Great movie.
And that deadline's on Thursday. Brinson doesn't have the calendar in front of him. Thursday, July 15th.
Thank you, Breach. Let's get to the
Mailbag.
First up from these guys. Bryson Mitchell 2. Right. If you want to leave us a mailbag question, all offseason we'll continue doing them. We'll probably be doing up through training camp just to, keep the mailbag mojo going. People ask questions about fantasy, gambling, your teams, whatever. If you got a question about a team coming up and you want us to answer it, or maybe about Bud Light, like best place to buy Bud Light, you can ask us that. And Bryson Mitchell says, Benson and Superfriends, #1 fan here. I do appreciate that every single Apple podcast review is now Benson. I appreciate it. The dedication to that is pretty good. Bryson Mitchell, by the way, from Canada. With all these celebrity YouTuber boxing fights, what NFL starting quarterback do each of you think you could beat in a boxing match? This is a good one.
The answer is none, because these are all professional athletes. But if you don't have a choice, who are you picking? All right.
Well, you guys are probably doing this on the cuff because you're not prepared like me, but
I am prepared.
Okay. Well, why don't we do a draft?
And I didn't use any of the quarterbacks on your list, so I'll go first without stealing anything.
Draft pick than me, than Wilson.
Okay, my first, as Wilson said, let me just say that if I boxed any professional football player, doesn't matter if they're a quarterback, I would get my face beat in. So now that is out of the way, I would pick Ben Roethlisberger.
What?
I think that he's old, he's out of shape, and I could just keep running around and make the fight at least last long. Maybe he gets tired, maybe he falls asleep, maybe he gets hungry. I don't know. There are a lot of variables here, and maybe I win by just running around for 12 hours until he's out of it.
First of all, he's younger than Breach, #1. #2, his reach is twice as long as Breach's little short little T-Rex.
I don't have to land any punches. That's not part of my plan here.
You got to beat him in a boxing match. You can't fight him to a draw.
Breach's strategies are run around the ring.
It doesn't say how long the rounds are. If the rounds last until someone goes down, I'm just going to keep moving around and not get hit.
You're basically going to dodge his. You're going to dodge his haymakers.
He's got bad knees.
Try and get in a couple shots and hope the judges rule in your favor.
Yes, exactly.
That is weak as hell.
That's weak sauce.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go. And again, it doesn't matter because you're going to get your ace whooped.
There's a couple answers that could get you.
I'm going to go with Brian Hoyer.
Oh, starting quarterback normally, but we'll let you have it.
No, we won't let him have it. No, if he's going to make fun of my pick, we're not letting him have that.
We has to be a starting quarterback. Was that the actual question?
Yeah, there's
literally in the question.
Okay, I didn't read that. I was too busy trying to find an easy one. Okay, all right.
There's an easy answer because now you don't have to fight Justin Fields.
I know who I'm going with. Breach, right back at you. I'm beating the crap out of Andy Dalton in that red wig of his. Who would rather fight Ben Roethlisberger than Andy Dalton?
Nobody. Nobody in their right mind. Ben Roethlisberger lands one punch and you're out.
But he has to hit that one punch.
So
Andy Dalton's gonna be like, sorry.
Yeah, this is tough, but I'll go with Andy Dalton because alternatively, if Justin Fields is starting for the Bears, it's over.
Let me just say that Andy Dalton is 6'2", 220. That's his. Roethlisberger is listed at 6'5", 240, although it's probably like 260.
Roethlisberger is bashing your face in.
I don't understand. You understand?
You're not going to be able to hit him anywhere like above the nipple.
Well, I didn't want to use my other answers because I felt bad for. No, it was Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott because they're coming off injuries.
Dak Prescott would beat you in a wheelchair. 100%. And he'd be taller than you.
Watson might not be eligible to fight. So
but he might not be a starting quarterback either. We don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's true. Tyrod Taylor? My #1 pick was pretty easy. It was Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins cooks his meat well done. He cooks the steaks gray.
He does not.
Yes, have you ever seen that? They look like rocks.
Yeah, and he's going to beat you up for making fun of him.
He's 6'3", which is a problem. I thought he was shorter than that. 202 pounds. I think I can scrap enough with. I think Kirk Cousins is too mild-mannered or too nice where I could scrap with him and take him down. I'm a huge underdog going in. Don't get me wrong.
We're not beating any of these guys.
No kidding.
I'm just trying to
professional athletes. I'll tell you the one that I didn't really think of when I was making my list. That kind of makes sense. What about Tua?
Yeah, like Tua or Mac Jones. Half a dozen of one.
What about Zach Wilson?
Wilson.
He's the Disney kid.
I'd rather fight
he looks like a Disney kid.
Zach Wilson's mom.
Zach Wilson's pretty jacked.
You fight anyone's mom. This is.
Zach Wilson's mom terrifies me. Have you watched her on Instagram?
No.
Oh Lord,
I don't follow NFL players' moms on Instagram.
Have you not heard about Zach Wilson's mom? We talked about this, right?
I'm surprised, by the way, you didn't want to beat up Carson Wentz and then stick it to Debo. Ooh. By the way, how much would Debo pay to watch Carson Wentz beat the crap out of you?
A lot.
Devo would pay just to have that match happen because he would win either way.
37. He would murder me.
So here's the bracket breach. He has to beat Carson Wentz. And if he beats Carson Wentz, then he has to fight Derek Carr.
Well, I was going to say, I was surprised Brinson didn't pick Derek Carr. That was if you would ask me who Brinson was going to pick, I would have said Derek Carr.
Derek Carr would have the old David Carr and Darren Carr be on the sidelines, like doing that gif where they're rubbing their hands together, like licking their chops.
Be the towel man.
The one Baker Mayfield is scrappy.
What about this? Tom Brady's older than everyone but me on this podcast. I mean,
my first thoughts, actually.
He has a bad knee. All right, who's the guy you least want to fight? This dummy said Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is up there.
Dak Prescott's way up there.
Dak just had his ankle snapped in half, and he's still recovering.
We're
assuming the fight's tomorrow. The fight's tomorrow.
Dak is still one I don't want to mess with.
Russell Wilson is awfully short.
Yeah, but he is stout.
I thought about he's jacked, man.
He would destroy you. Josh Allen would destroy you. Like I think
Josh Allen might be number one.
He might be number one. Josh
Wyoming guy. He gets to take out all his ankle. 6'5", 240.
What about somebody you want to fight? Jared Goff? Would you fight Jared Goff?
Jared Goff is on the list.
He's on the list. So I think the top guy is what's his name? Josh Allen. Number 2 is probably Russ Wilson. Least want to fight. Number 2 is Russ Wilson.
Up there.
Yeah, Cam Newton's. I'm not fighting Cam Newton.
And then probably Lamar.
What about boxing Kyler Murray?
No, he's quick. He ran a 4.2, and he'd be beating you up.
Yeah, but he's not throwing a knockout punch like Josh Allen's going to.
So instead, you're getting punched 75 times. I mean, I'd rather get punched once and get it over with. I mean, what are we doing?
Oh, I disagree with that. If you're a lightweight or a featherweight, you do not want to fight a heavyweight.
Right.
A heavyweight is obliterating you just because you can't get any good looks on him. And we're not getting a shot.
He wanted to fight Ben Roethlisberger.
I switched to Kyler. I need someone closer to my height.
Breach, I want you to slide a little bit to your left. Slide to your left. Do you have a chair that moves? Is that chair stationary?
He didn't know his left from his right.
Okay. No, and now put out your arm so we can see it in the full. People on YouTube who watch it. Put out your right arm. Lean down to your left and put out your right arm. Down to your left and put out your right arm. You think you're going to punch Ben Roethlisberger with that wingspan? Look at that.
You have a fantastic wingspan.
He won't get through the first 4 inches of belly fat on Ben Roethlisberger with that arm.
You'd have a better chance against Kyler Murray just being able to try and block and hold something and try and catch one.
What about Matt Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, he's like in the Jared Goff category, but again, they're all waxing.
He's 6'4", 217.
But he doesn't come up he doesn't seem like someone who's throwing down.
Dude, 5'9" guys, 5'10" guys are not beating up a 6'4" guy.
No one's saying they are, but we're trying to take the lessen the beating as much as possible. So this is the game plan here. We're not beating anybody.
Do you think that it would be easier to take down somebody like Jared Goff or Jared Goff 6'4", 222, by the way. Somebody like Jared Goff or Matt Ryan in a UFC style match or a boxing match?
I was going to say, if you can kick him in the side of the knee, yeah. You're not kicking Kyler Murray because he's so quick, or Lamar Jackson. Probably even Cam Newton because he's so quick.
Is that how I beat Ben then?
Yeah, that's right. You had to collapse his legs in, and then when he's down,
and then he collapses on you, and you're done.
Well, you got to twinkle toes around him, and then once he's down, you got to kick him a bunch. I love that we're advocating violence on grown men who would clearly.
This is what happens in the mailbag.
It's safe to say that the NFC North is the worst. The most, like if you had to fight a bunch of one division's worth of quarterbacks, or you're power ranking the divisional quarterbacks to fight, NFC North is clearly number one.
And just to repeat, none of us think we could win any of these.
Wait a second, though. If it's Jordan Love and Justin Fields, that changes things.
Of course, I'm banking. We're talking about starting quarterbacks. I'm talking
Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to fight him. Again, Aaron Rodgers pulls hair.
He's a hippie now.
He pulls hair. He does the.
If you watch him play golf, the guy is good at everything. He will get out there and like knock you out with one punch.
Being good at golf doesn't make you a fighter.
I'm just saying he's good at everything. That was my point.
Okay. Sam Darnold, we didn't mention it. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ooh.
Yeah, Sam Darnold and Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're the same guy, 20 years apart.
Well, give me the old guy.
He's scrappy though.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, 6'2", 230. Ooh, he'd beat my ass.
Yes, he would.
How big is Sam Darnold? It's amazing how much 6'3", 225. I mean, these guys are just big.
Yeah.
What we need Teddy Bridgewater to get a starting job.
Teddy Bridgewater would wipe the floor with you.
Yes.
And I said Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer would he'd beat the three of us up by himself.
Yeah. Every quarterback. I mean, if I went over to Mike Glennon's house right now, I was like, Mike, we got to fight. He would beat the snot out of me.
Yeah, because those tweets you sent about him the way back in the day.
No, I'm just saying. We're not beating, none of us are beating up a professional quarterback.
I hope Sean hears this part of it. That's his favorite, one of his favorite experiences at CBS.
Tweets about him. Moving along. Let's go. Great
All
daily pod. It's from Justin O'Bara in the
Ooh.
US of A. I think Reggie Bush's career was underrated. 88 catches his rookie year and had a few 100-yard seasons. Obviously one of the best college players ever, but do you think he was 10 years before his time where he fits into the league better? Before we get there, I have some breaking news. It's time for the Ice Cold Takes presented by Bud Light, and I have two of them. One, Reggie Bush wasn't even the best running back in his draft class. He was the third best running back in his draft class. And two, the NCAA needs to sack up and give Reggie Bush back his Heisman Trophy and give USC back their title now that the NIL has been passed, because that's the whole reason they were ripped of it from the first place. They weren't cheating, or they probably were cheating, but they weren't cheating. That's not why they were stripped of it. They were stripped of it because of Reggie Bush's name, image, likeness stuff. Give it back. Give it all back, you clowns, you frauds, you losers up there in Indianapolis. Give it back.
Wow. Hopefully Bud Light doesn't sponsor the NCAA. Conflict of interest there. So who is the best running back?
Hot. I've been fired. Okay, good to hear.
Who are the two other running backs that you liked in that class?
I was hoping you guys would be able to guess, but you can't. So I will tell you.
I don't know. Breach might be able to guess. I can't guess. 2006.
One of them played for your favorite team at one point in time in the second stage of his career, Ryan.
Oh, it wasn't D'Angelo, was it?
Yes.
Okay. It's funny you mentioned that. I have a fun fact after you named the other guy.
And the other one, Breach, you won't be able to get this. Ryan will be able to get this if I put
MJD?
Yeah, Breach was Googling. I saw his eyes down.
Who'd you Google, Breach?
I mean, there's like 20 running backs in that class.
You've got your eyes down. You were clearly Googling 2006 NFL draft.
I wasn't doing anything.
Who did he say?
I was looking up Reggie Bush's stats, to be honest, to see if he...
And then you clicked through to draft class and found MJD very quickly. But that's correct.
Who was it? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Bryce Jones-Drew.
Oh, right. MJD. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Reggie
He's
Bush
the sixth running back taken. I could have said anybody above him.
So here's I agree. I think both those running backs had better careers. Here's the interesting thing. At Pro Football Reference, they do sort of a similarity score. And for Reggie Bush, some names we would recognize. D'Angelo Williams, who was one of the top names who had a similar career to Reggie Bush. Willis McGahee, Mark Ingram, Deuce Staley, all names we're familiar with. So not a Hall of Fame career. It just felt like the hype was such that coming out of USC, it was out of control with Reggie Bush. Like, he was so good that it was going to be hard to match that at the next level. So
oddly enough, Reggie Bush's career approximate value is higher
than both those
D'Angelo
guys.
Williams.
Even though
lower
he played
than MJD. Didn't see that coming.
Oh, that's wow. Why is D'Angelo's? Maybe D'Angelo didn't do a lot as a receiver, but he did.
Excuse me. They're tied. D'Angelo and Reggie are tied. At 61.
Reggie had 1,400 more receiving yards than D'Angelo Williams and 600 more receiving yards than Maurice Jones-Drew. And I do think that if Reggie came along now, I think he would be unstoppable, because obviously, a few teams, especially New Orleans, were able to make good use of him. But because of the way offenses have evolved, we've seen guys like Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, who are just these crazy dual threats, and that didn't exist as much back then. And you look at Reggie Bush, I think his rookie year, he finished with 742 receiving yards. The leading receiver at the running back position in the NFL had 756 this year. And so I think his numbers would be better. I think he would be, if he had come along 10 years later, I think we're talking about him as maybe not a Hall of Fame running back, but much more than we're talking about him now. But
Sean Payton arrived in 2006, I believe.
Correct.
That's when he arrived. So it's not like the offense changed, or the way, I'm sure Sean Payton has obviously evolved as a coach and an offensive coach. But I why didn't Reggie have more success? That's my question. Like, I don't know if the era matters as much, because he was in the similar offense with the same coach, but he never sort of.
The Saints had gone 3-13 with Jim Haslett the year before. Everyone assumed the Texans were going to take Reggie Bush.
That's what I told my Adam Schefter story, where Adam Schefter sent me an email. It said they are not taking, because I was writing for Football Outsiders. He was the first person to dunk on me in the media.
He tweeted they're not going to take him, and you.
Well, he didn't tweet. I don't think Twitter was around. He sent me an email privately.
No, but he had written a story. You were aggregating it for Football Outsiders, and then he sent you an email. Okay, clown, watch this.
Basically, and he was correct.
Yes, weird.
But he was still at NFL Network at the time, and he wasn't Adam Schefter, but we still all knew that he was the man.
Yeah, I mean. So
let's see. He only had 2,000-yard seasons, one season at 986. So 3,000 1,000-yard seasons, but that's also the 3-year stretch, 2011 to 2013, where he played at least 14 games. Every other year, he started fewer than 10 games.
So let me ask you this: and this is interesting. Shouldn't Reggie Bush just have been Alvin Kamara before Alvin Kamara got there?
Yeah,
Why
my
wasn't Sean
point.
Payton ready for it?
I don't think he was as good as Alvin Kamara because the expectations maybe had something to do. I have no idea.
He was like coming into the
Coming out.
pros.
But the point is that I think the expectations, I don't know if that played a role or not, but he was so otherworldly coming out of USC, where Alvin Kamara was a 3rd-round pick out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Because no one expected it. And I don't know. I'm just trying to make up excuses here. I don't have a real reason for why he didn't set the world on fire.
I mean, Drew Brees, his first season with the Saints, passed 554 times for 4,418 yards. Like, he was prolific out of the gate. Reggie Bush's rookie season, he had 155 rushes, 6 rushing touchdowns, actually pretty good. 121 targets.
How many times throughout his career did he have 10 total touchdowns in a season? Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush?
Don't look, just guess.
I would guess 5?
0 rushing and receiving touchdowns.
Ooh, that's crazy.
How?
That's exactly.
Alvin Kamara is just a better player than Reggie Bush.
But then you also had the Saints backfield was stacked in his early years, and I just don't
why
think.
Draft him?
Well, because there was Pierre Thomas, Deuce McAllister were both there, and that hurt him getting touches on the ground. He was still getting his receptions, and I think maybe Sean Payton just thought that the other guys worked better in what he was trying to do at that point.
Do you think that if you swapped, would Reggie Bush have Alvin Kamara's career if you swapped them?
I don't think so. I don't think it was a function of being in a bad system. Drew Brees was there. Sean Payton was there. The team wasn't as good as you noted, but they got better. I just think Reggie Bush wasn't the pro that we all hoped he would be. Matt Leinart wasn't the pro we all hoped he would be. He was a 10th overall pick.
I think there's a case to be made that Reggie Bush, that it's maybe more about Sean Payton's evolution as a coach. Because you look at the Saints last year,
Drew Brees has been good ever since he got there.
I know, but Alvin Kamara had 187 carries and led them. You know, he might have let Reggie Bush do that, or maybe Reggie Bush got there and he wasn't ready to be that guy.
I think there's more. What I'm saying is that there's more teams who are throwing to the running back. You know, back then Sean Payton is still Sean Payton. You know, he might have evolved, but Reggie Bush could have been on different teams nowadays because
Reggie Bush had 121 targets as a rookie.
Who do you think? What team in the NFL produced the running back that had the second most receiving yards? Kamara was number 1 in 2020. Who do you think was number 2?
CMC and Saquon were both hurt, so
probably the Steelers with no running backs.
I don't even know. Answer.
McCaffrey was hurt. Did you say that?
Yeah. McCaffrey was hurt, so it's not them. I'm trying to think. Who would it have been?
The Chiefs.
That's a good guess. I don't know.
It's going to blow your mind. Washington. J.D. McKissick.
J.D. McKissick
was second. And so when you have a team like Washington, you know, I just think Reggie Bush could have been successful with more teams. He wouldn't have been locked into one system because as soon as he left the Saints, it felt like that was his only chance. You know, I think he went to Detroit.
He went to Miami first and had a 1,000-yard rushing season his first year. Was there for 2 years, and then had a 1,000-yard rushing season with Detroit, and then limped around San Francisco and Buffalo.
Those years were really good. Those are 3,000-yard seasons I was talking about. He had 80 targets in 2013 with the Lions, and then his career was basically over. He didn't play much for the 49ers or the Bills. So I don't know. I just don't think he was as good as we all thought he was going to be. I would imagine Reggie would tell you the same thing. Maybe
I think
injuries.
there's a chance that Reggie Bush got to the NFL, was famous already, and maybe didn't work as hard.
I don't know. Look, I don't know the backstory, but he didn't reach his potential.
No, he certainly did not. So there you go. There you have it.
So I don't think it's lack of error. I just think
that's a really good question, by the way.
It didn't come together.
That's a fun question.
Does anybody disagree with the ice cold take that the NCAA should give it back to?
I'm not agreeing with that because I'm not getting fired.
Give the Heisman back.
You can agree with that without calling them clowns and frauds and.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. I'm fine. Yeah, give him his Heisman back. I do agree with that. Not the name calling and the.
Brinson will hand deliver it.
Yeah.
Summer's here. That means only one thing. It's time to stock the coolers and start counting down the days until we can enjoy an ice cold Bud Light in an NFL stadium again. Oh, goodness gracious. By our count, only 58 days remaining until we can hear a beer vendor yelling, Bud Light, ice cold Bud Light. Get your Bud Light right here. That's a pretty good vendor call, actually. To help you take summer by the coolers. I like that. Get ready to tailgate. Bud Light is giving away coolers every day, all summer long. That's right. Free coolers all summer long. Throw away that dusty old ice box you have in the back of your garage and tailgate in style this fall. All you have to do for a chance to win is sign up and enter on BudLightLegends.com. Again, go to BudLightLegends.com. You need to point down, Breach. That's where the website address
I'm pointing
is.
at the Bud Light bottle.
I see that.
I need to point like diagonal. I can't even do it. It's so complicated.
If you want to check out our snazzy Bud Light logos, go for it. It is set up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Pick6. And by the way, I went to a live sporting event. Went to the couple Canes playoff games.
I saw you tweeting about it nonstop.
I was slamming some Bud Lights there.
Good.
Responsibly, of course, but it, man, we're reading an advertisement obviously here, but it's true. Can you imagine being in an NFL stadium or a college football stadium and just you're standing there amongst people watching live football with an ice cold Bud Light in your hand? How good does that sound?
Sounds amazing.
It sounds delicious.
So don't forget, you got to tailgate in style. BudLightLegends.com. Go do it. Go register. There's a note thing, right? Pick Six podcast or something. Best NFL daily pod. Thank you. Doubleheader. When is Debo going to dunk on Breach because Eagles quarterbacks isn't getting his legs clapped again? Jeez. Like Joe Burrow because they have a better offensive line.
I don't know if that earned a dunk.
That's
Tough
pretty
day for
dark.
Breach.
That is pretty dark.
Pretty dark.
Oh,
so when are you going to dunk on him, Debo?
No, Joe Burrow, great quarterback. I would love to have him on my squad.
Thank you, Debo. That's what I would. Jalen Hurts.
Breach has been very kind towards Carson Wentz and really building him up, and I think he believes, like I believe, is going to have a good 2021. So no ill will towards Breach. The other two of you guys have been the ones negative towards the Eagles and the Eagles quarterback situation.
let me give you
Maybe the Eagles should be a little less whiny.
give you a little warning, Debo, because this is what happens. Breach is nice until he gets passive aggressive. So when it comes to pass that Carson Wentz has a chance to affect the Bengals, Breach will get very passive aggressive and he will take it out on you, and you will be surprised, but you shouldn't be, because I'm warning you now.
This is incorrect. The Bengals and Eagles have tied each other 2 times in the past 15 years.
Carson Wentz plays for the Colts, dummy.
Oh, well, I know. I'm talking about Debo's team, the Eagles. And also, the Colts are probably going to be the team I picked to go to the Super Bowl. Spoiler alert. So me and Debo are on the Wentz wagon together.
You're not doing that.
Get out of here. Stop it.
Well, maybe I'm just throwing a curveball to get Brinson to pick them so I can pick the real team I want.
No, you try to steal my Rams.
Brinson's head.
You're not picking them.
They're not. The Rams are my team. That's crazy.
I love that. No, the Rams are my team. Just get Brinson.
Rams are my team.
All right, read the rest of the question from Epic Dunks, by the way. Which makes sense.
Loves the dunk. Also, if you think, do you think it's logical for these free agents to sign with teams listed by their names? What deals do you think they could get? KJ Wright with the Rams, Mitch Schwartz with the Jaguars, Richard Sherman with the Buccaneers, and Justin Houston with the Colts or Baltimore, and maybe Stephon Gilmore they trade to San Francisco. Sure. What do you guys think about those?
So let's see. What deals do you think they could get? Wow,
I'll be honest. None of those deals were on my radar until this mailbag.
No, I've been talking about Mitch Schwartz to the Jaguars for months. I don't know what you're talking about that.
Yeah.
Of course not. Are you crazy?
I was like, what? I didn't remember that.
That's a deep cut.
Wow, good for you. Wow.
So let's see. Let's start with the ones the easy one. Richard Sherman to the Buccaneers. Like I totally forgot that Richard Sherman was still unsigned. I suspect he'll sign at some point. I don't know if the Buccaneers make the most sense. I feels like a veteran minimum deal only because they're so deep defensively, or maybe like are you paying them more than $2 million a year? I don't know if you are. I think they're probably better landing spots, like the Cowboys, because they need help. We talk about them defensively. Who's the other team?
Saints.
The Saints.
I believe the Buccaneers have the smallest amount of cap space in the NFL right now, so I don't think they're going to go out and try and make a move like that. that would be my take on the Sherman. The one I do think that could happen here is Justin Houston with the Colts or the Ravens. I do think that, you start getting to the end of your career, you want to make sure you're playing with a contender. Like, he's not going to go sign with Jacksonville or Cincinnati, dunking on myself, or the Detroit Lions. He's not going to go sign with a team unless he thinks he can win. And obviously just spent 2 seasons with the Colts. So return there, I don't think is completely out of the question. Probably won't happen. Played for the Chiefs for a long time. So maybe Kansas City brings him back. And then the Ravens wouldn't be surprising at all. So I think that is probably the most realistic.
So, by the way, I wanted to look this up real quick. So I went to Spot Track. Richard Sherman, obviously unsigned. We're talking about him. Steven Nelson still unsigned, which is sort of a surprise for me. The Steelers had to cut him. Josh Norman's still out there. Gary and Conley. So there are a lot of names of Drake Kirkpatrick. I think Jonathan Jones retired. Breach's old guy.
Jonathan Joseph.
Jonathan Joseph. Oh, okay. Yeah.
We work with Jonathan Jones.
Yeah, I misread that. Jonathan Jones. Jonathan, our coworker, you have been retired. Sorry about that. I forgot to tell you.
Yeah, he gone.
He gone. And then you just mentioned edge rusher. I like what you said about Justin Houston. Wanted to go play for a winner because it doesn't make sense at this stage in your career if you still have something left just to sign up to play because you don't necessarily want to play for the Jaguars. I don't have any real thoughts on Mitchell Schwartz to the Jaguars or anywhere else.
Mitchell Schwartz.
By the way, Melvin Ingram's still out there.
This year?
Olivier Vernon.
Melvin Ingram is still out there. That's a big one.
Olivier Vernon's still out there. Melvin Ingram.
The Dolphins and the Chiefs, I think.
I don't think it's fully guaranteed that Mitchell Schwartz plays football this year. He was tweeting about his sick house in Kansas City.
Oh, good for him. And what's the other one? KJ Wright.
Yeah, KJ Wright's kind of surprised. Some of these big name veterans are surprising.
Yeah.
These dudes are old though, man.
How old is KJ? See, 31, 32?
32 probably.
I mean, KJ, the Seahawks we're talking about, there's still a chance he
31.
could return there.
He'll turn 32 in July. We're pretty good at that. That's good.
And I think KJ Wright also mentioned maybe reuniting with Dan Quinn in Dallas. Quinn was his defense coordinator early on.
That makes sense. I would think that some of these guys for these cases, like a KJ Wright, if you're going to go back to Seattle or if you're going to go to Dallas and sign with Dan Quinn or anybody else, or anybody in that scheme and that setup, that you're probably not in a rush to sign.
This is how old we are. Like now, these names that you see, you could start an all-star team. So I'll run through the guys that are currently free agents looking for work that I haven't thought about because, we haven't really been focused on free agency for a while. Jason Peters is still out there. Tyler Eifert, Danny Amendola, Bruce Irvin, Todd Gurley. Let's see who else we got. Everson Griffin, Josh Norman. I mentioned Kenny Vaccaro still out there. KJ Wright we're talking about. Avery Williamson. 2013 All-Pro team. Yes, Steven Nelson I just talked about. Richard Sherman, Golden Tate. David Castro was just cut. Olivier Vernon. Larry Fitzgerald. We don't know what he's going to do. He hasn't announced, right? Larry Fitzgerald's still with the Cardinals, I think. No.
He is a free agent, but he owns the Suns, has a small stake in the Phoenix Suns.
But he hasn't said he's retiring, right?
Yeah, I think he'll probably come back on a
Russell Okung, Quan Alexander, Shaquille Barrett. Shaquille Barrett's a free agent?
No. He said
but this is a lot of these older veterans like Richard Sherman, Larry Fitzgerald, they sit out on purpose because it's like you don't need to go to practice in June. You're old. You don't want to get your body beat up.
No, I get all that, but there's some names that I've mentioned that aren't as old as they are. Geno Atkins also is the last one I mentioned. Jarrell Casey too. So this is as you point out, Brent, an all-star team from 6 or 7 years ago. But just how
the
quickly
Larry Fitzgerald thing is entirely possible that the Cardinals are saying, "Hey, look, Larry, let's see how training camp goes. We need to see what our roster looks like." I think they've been trying to move on for Larry Fitzgerald for a while.
Oh, Shaq Barrett signed a 4-year deal. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald didn't want to play anywhere else. The Cardinals owner wants Larry Fitzgerald to retire as a Cardinal, so they're willing to keep him around for another year if he's willing to not take it. He doesn't need a ton of money. He's willing to.
But to Breach's point, the fact that he's almost the middle of July and
he was calling the match with Rodgers and DeChambeau and So.
Who played with DeChambeau?
Rodgers, and it was Phil and Brady.
I think that makes sense. Like Rodgers has almost made himself into the bad guy of the NFL.
Yeah, Rodgers played awesome.
Did he play better than Tom Brady?
Yeah, Brady had some bad moments. Rodgers made a ton of huge clutch spots.
Rodgers was clutch.
Anyway, yeah, I guess I I think the problem with some of those deals is like, does Mitch Schwartz, would he rather go just barbecue at his house or would he rather go play for the Jaguars for $5 million?
Finally, Steph Gilmore traded to the 49ers.
Yeah, if Jimmy G's involved, sure, but I don't think that's happening.
I don't know. Jimmy G's out of the question at this point. They drafted Mac Jones, so I don't think he's.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to trade Gilmore.
Exactly. I don't think they trade him. I think they're trying to win now, and
He's in last year of his deal, too, I believe.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, a very entertaining NFL discussion. Just kidding. That was the title of the review for our next mailbag question. A hugely enjoyable NFL podcast that strikes a great balance between football analysis and entertaining chat. The three hosts bring their own distinct qualities. Princeton is an interrupting fiend who does a brilliant Jerry Jones impression and can persuade you to believe in almost any team, except perhaps the Bengals. Rich knows more about kickers and punters than probably anyone should, but makes you care about special teams. And Wilson brings a voice of reason and a healthy dose of slightly jaded pessimism to the discussion. Good, too, when Debo, spelling, close enough, joins in to defend the Eagles. Highly recommended. So here's my question, gentlemen. You're suddenly a billionaire. Brinson's golf bets, let's say, have really struck gold. Nice. And will be the owner of the NFL's 33rd franchise. Where do you base your new team and why? What's your team name? One caveat, you can't pick a city that already has an NFL team. Being a Brit, I'll go for the obvious, the London Beef Eaters. We play in red and gold with a black helmet. We know how to draft a good guard. You guys can pick a U.S. city, town, of course, but what's your thinking behind it? Henry Knight, 82, from, as he noted, Great Britain.
That's a great question. We've talked previously about where a team might be relocated, but this is a slightly different take on that.
Yeah, you're the owner. You win relocation in the city of your choice.
Here's the thing. Like, I hate hot weather, but part of me thinks like Austin, Texas might be where you want to go.
Your team's going bankrupt.
Why?
Jerry Jones is running you out of business. He's not letting you move your team to Texas.
He didn't care about what's his name in Houston, and they were actually successful. The Oilers.
Oh, the Oilers.
I'm gonna go with Raleigh. The Raleigh Raiders. We're gonna trade for Derek Carr.
You're gonna steal their name.
Yes, we're gonna trade for Derek Carr and we're gonna cut him.
Raleigh Raiders.
I told you, and then all those years later, I told you you're getting cut by the Raiders, son. It was $1 billion got-ems.
I think what you do is you go Austin Longhorns, you become like the burnt orange and white. You just rip off everything and you double up. You make it into a feeder system.
Yeah, we definitely are getting some lawsuits filed against us very quickly. Raleigh Nutcrackers, since we're the.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what's the thing in Texas? The
Austin Long Branches.
Long Branch. I was thinking like the Austin, like the Spurs is already taken. Like I was trying to think of like a Cowboy.
Can't be the Spurs. You already sold the Longhorns from Texas. Now you're stealing the Spurs from San Antonio.
The Spurs.
Your team is going to be sued out of existence. This is amazing.
The Austin Cowboys.
Yeah, we're silver and blue. Any problems with that?
He would have an issue with that.
I have to think about the name.
I mean, in all seriousness, I would go to San Diego. I think
that was on my list.
Yeah, that's sort of cheating, but I'll give it to you. You already said Raleigh.
Why is that cheating?
Perfect weather. You become the savior of San Diego.
I would call the San Diego Scorchers.
I thought you were gonna say Squirrels, which is
that was my backup name, or Seagulls.
Oh, the Seagulls inspires fear. I thought reaching me like the San Diego, like I don't know.
I also like
the San Diego Hacky Sacks.
I like Portland. And I would call them the Portland Prospectors, and they'd have like a natural rivalry with the 49ers.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Or the Portland Parrots, because I think it'd be fun to have like an actual parrot at the game, and fans
How
could
can you go from the Prospectors in that great rivalry to the Parrots.
Well, because like then you get the bird theme. You have the Seahawks up northwest with Portland and Seattle, and like you go to the game, you ask the parrot who's going to win, and the parrot tells you, and then you bet on it using the parrot's advice. Imagine getting gambling advice from a parrot. I mean, this sells itself.
Sure
Oakland, does. I would go to Oakland, and I would call a team.
No, you can't use cities that formerly hosted.
Well, I'd call them the Oakland Armada. So like make it around like ships. And then I'd make my logo something close to the Raiders, but not close enough that they're going to sue me. And then boom, Oakland.
I would go to Oakland and call them the Black Hole Suns.
That's not bad.
They just blast Soundgarden every game as they mosh pit like crazy in the
and make fun of the fact and that Vegas black hole in the stadium.
Like San Antonio is also another popular destination.
Feels like Texas is a little saturated.
There's so many big cities. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I was saying why there's
Just NFL teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be hard to find a spot.
What about Honolulu?
Honolulu. I had that too.
That's a good one.
You guys are taking all my cities.
And if you're the billionaire, you get to go to
I know
Honolulu.
where. If I'm building an NFL team, I'm going to Cincinnati because they don't have one.
Oh, dunk. Actually, thought Brinson was, that joke was so lame. I thought Brinson was going to use it.
Normally, you don't do the full Dickie V, but Breach was trying to talk, and I wanted to really bury him there.
Yeah, that is for a name. I don't know for my Austin, like the Austin Brian Green's actually something I thought of because of Brian Austin Green. That's
What
actually
on earth?
That's not bad.
That is it not? You sure about that?
Well, like 2 people get it, me and Breach. No one else.
You
would
sure
have.
that the Brian Austin Greens isn't bad?
Well, if you're going to do that, you could be called the Austin Peas.
That's
Like
already
Austin
taken.
P.
Yeah, I get it.
But then it could be, you spell it
the
however
Ps.
you want.
Yeah, there you go.
It could literally just be the letter P apostrophe S.
And Dean Peace has to be the coach.
Yeah.
This is how
Now we're getting somewhere.
this is how someone in marketing gets absolutely eviscerated for a
Right.
terrible idea. They're like,
That's
it's not our fault. It was the owner.
Right. That's right.
I think the Honolulu team could be called the Heat Wave. Honolulu Heat Wave.
Yeah, you don't want to say tidal wave because you don't want to wish bad things on the island.
You
Or
gotta
the
be a little careful
Honolulu
these days.
Hummingbirds. How about the Hummingbirds?
Nah, heat wave's much better. Hummingbird,
Okay.
that doesn't instill fear in anyone.
I mean, have you ever
Honolulu
seen a
Hawks?
hummingbird?
What'd you say?
Hawks?
You
You
already
get
have
the
the
Seahawks
That's
and
the
the
Seahawks.
Atlanta Hawks.
What
Seahawks
is,
are not Hawks.
what is the current
How
of the
you can't have a freaking monopoly on Hawks as a logo.
I mean,
there's only
you
maybe
can.
eight.
Honolulu, they'd be fine with Hawks.
Yeah, I'd rather be the heat wave. What's currently the softest mascot of the 32 teams?
I don't know what a brown is. The little elf? That's pretty
Well,
soft.
that's a name.
A dolphin's not intimidating.
Dolphin's not intimidating at all.
Especially now they neutered it without the football helmet.
Yeah, I mean the Patriots. I get that,
I mean,
but
a Cardinal's not scary.
Cardinals not scary. The Packers is like you work in the packing plan. Is that what that's
I
based
mean,
on? I would
Saints
imagine?
are, what about the Saints?
Saints. Ravens. I guess they're scarier than the Cardinals.
Washington football team has no name.
The Titans. What does that mean? What does Titans mean?
I mean, isn't a colt basically a baby horse?
Yep.
By the way, when the
It
Titans,
is
I mean, a
actually
baby horse isn't that intimidating.
when the Titans probably
The,
announced their
the Honolulu baby horses. My
Okay.
God, that's it. We just figured it out.
What about the Honolulu Heifers?
Like,
I
I don't
think
know.
it's either Dolphins.
49ers isn't particularly menacing. It's just people that
No,
are looking for
sure
gold in
Sure isn't.
1849.
Um,
there a lot
Steelers,
of-
isn't that scary?
Yeah, but I don't think they're last. Like they're not in the bottom three.
No. It's so Chiefs, Raiders,
What's the
Chargers, Lightning Bolts, and Broncos. Those are all out.
What are
Bengals, Browns, we can consider.
yeah, 100%.
Dolphins is in the mix. So Browns and Dolphins.
What's a Titan?
Oh, I got one for Austin.
What?
The Austin Armadillos.
Oh, they're gonna say aardvarks. I was gonna go
Because there's
with
armadillos in Texas.
all right, fair enough.
It's a great mascot.
I mean,
You
is the
win.
Green Bay Packers scary?
Well, I
No.
think you work like in the meat packing plant or whatever.
Oh no! Look, a meat packer.
Right. Yeah. All
Oh
right.
no! Look, someone who's putting meat into
I
a plastic
mean,
casing and shipping it out to
working-
South America.
that could be scary.
So I think this is the takeaway here is that there are a lot of like not scary names for mascots in the NFL.
I might move. I might. Oh, you know what? My team. I moved my team to Branson.
I already moved.
Missouri.
Call
Branson,
them
Missouri.
the Will Bransons. We get it.
Nope. Branson Brinsons.
That's even worse. Oh no! Here you move your team to Benson, North Carolina. Done.
Oh, there we go.
The Bensons.
Really get a couple of markets. Get Wilmington. Get Raleigh.
The Bensons.
I think the answer is either the Saints or the Cardinals for weakest mascot.
Yeah. And again, Broncos aren't menacing, but in the list of NFL names, they're doing
Well, like who would you least want to fight? The answer is, I think, Cardinals.
sure, but like the Jets, does that
I mean,
scare you?
Cardinals are the size of Breach's head.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
a
prob-
jet, you don't want to fight a jet.
I mean, the Cardinals probably have longer arms than Breach too. They do a better job against Ben Roethlisberger.
Ah,
Like the New York Giants, that's just a lazy. Like, what do you want to do? Yeah, let's make them big monsters. Not Giants. I gotta go to lunch. The Giants.
Yeah.
yeah, but a
I'll
giant
say-
could be
I'll
a
say
like
Cardinals
somebody
is
who's 9'10".
Yeah, you don't want to fight a giant. So
Yeah,
you don't
but
want to fight
that's
a Seahawk. You don't want to fight a Ram. You
It's
would definitely
either
fight a Cardinal.
Brenson's right. It's either the cardinal or the baby horse.
You
No,
don't want to, Yeah,
Or the
the
C.
answer is Cardinals. If you beat you beat a Cardinal up with a broom handle.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I've been
Dog-
attacked by a robin in my backyard. I'm like, look, dude, you get any closer, I'm going to beat your ass.
What if it
The pro-
poops on you?
And the problem is that it started as a St. Louis Cardinals and maybe the Cleveland Cardinals before that. So they just were too lazy to change the name.
Well, Cardinals aren't scary.
Like
You
Breach,
can
if you're
you can beat up a priest pretty easily, but it'd be easier to fight a Cardinal than a priest.
oh my god, Breach, if you're starting a team in Arizona when you're bringing the Cardinals over from St. Louis, what are you calling them? Or not St.
Or
Yeah.
all the good names are taken. The Coyotes, is that taken? Yeah, that's what the hockey team's called.
He's like, all the good names are taken. Coyotes, that's it.
Is Roadrunner? Is Roadrunner taken?
No,
I'll call
This
them the
is like
Roadrunners.
Arizona Meat Meeps or something like that.
that was pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That wasn't bad.
Next up, email. Oh, this would be an email from Matt Grace, presumably the former Chicago Cubs third baseman.
That's Mark Grace. So maybe his son?
Oh, Mark
Matt-
Grace. Hey, I
not
love
Mark
Mark Grace.
You're welcome.
I love Mark Grace too. Do you play third base?
No, God.
First
No.
base?
He was left-handed, and he did this. He didn't wear I can't give. He didn't ever wear batting gloves, which was weird. Even 100%. Look it up. Google any picture of Mark Grace. There's no way he's wearing batting gloves.
He's a first baseman.
Yeah, I just told you that. Batted left-handed. I don't know. He may have been right-handed thrower, but he was batted right. I'm pretty sure he's left-handed catching too.
All right, I lost my train of thought there. I don't have Apple Podcasts. He is from Australia, by the way. Love our Australian audience. I don't have Apple Podcasts, so I can't leave you a review, unfortunately, but 5 stars all day if I could. Firstly, don't listen to the haters, Brinson. Keep those betting tips coming. I like Keaton Slovis for the Heisman at 31-1 as some value. I agree with that. Writing it from Melbourne, Australia here. Love listening to you guys in the car and to and from work. I've been a big NFL fan for about 5 to 6 years now, Vikings, but I learn something new every time I listen to your podcast. That's
Yikes.
the nicest thing I've ever heard. On to my question. There have been quite a few Aussies make their way to college football as a punter, obviously because we also have Aussie rules football where we kick a similar shaped ball. And as you know, a few are floating in the NFL at the moment. Michael Dixon, Mitch Wishnowsky, etc. Other transferable skills from Aussie rules to the role as a punter would be tackling, catching. So to ask the actual question, do you think there is room, provided the quality of punting is equal, as that's obviously the primary role, for the role of the punter to expand, and that the college or NFL scouts should potentially push more resources, other than the program called Pro Kick, which is here but relatively unknown, towards Aussie football athletes, as we can potentially bring extra elements to the role? Hold on. Again, this is all in the base that our punting skills is developed to a level which matches your level of punters over there. Looking forward to hearing your opinions on this. And again, keep up the great work. Can't wait for the day and get over to the U.S. and watch a game. Awesome. Doesn't look like the NFL will ever bring a game down here, unfortunately. Cheers, guys. Regards, Matt.
Never say never. I'll just say this quickly. Johnny Hecker is probably.
Oh, sorry. He added tackling. Oh, he had some more details about tackling and catching that Devo pulled out for the succinctness of the email.
I was going to say Johnny Hecker for me before Breach actually gives the informed response is probably the best example of a punter that can do more than one thing because he was a former quarterback. So I don't know if the tackling and catching is immediately transferable because I don't think you want your punter getting hurt if he's playing on coverage units for the kickoff team, for example, or if you have him running out to catch passes. So I think maybe Breach to widen your horizons as a playmaker in the NFL other than punting, you might need to be good at throwing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that would help. First, let me just say, Matt, thank you for writing what I'm going to take as a special teams question because it's about punting. We don't get a lot of those. I'm always thrilled when they come in. And I'm especially thrilled when they're from Australia because I love Australia. I love kangaroos, koala bears, wallabies, all of that.
Yeah, you didn't name one single mascot
Not
for your
one.
potential teams. That would be a koala bear or a.
Well, because none of those
you
teams
know.
are in Australia. Why would a United
You know what?
States
I'm moving
team?
my team to Melbourne.
And what do you guys be called?
The Melbourne Koala Bears.
The Melbourne Crocodile Hunters.
That's
Done.
not intimidating. Nobody's intimidated by a koala bear.
Why
Crocodile
are you
hunter.
insulting koala bears, Breach?
I mean, they're adorable. You'll have the most adorable team mascot, but
All right, answer the question.
I think Wilson hit a lot of this on the head with what he said. If you have, so we're talking about, there's 3 punters, which is crazy because there's only 32 jobs, and 3 of them are Australian punters with Dixon. He mentioned Mitch Wishnowsky and also Cameron Johnston. And so these guys have had a lot of success in the NFL. And we've seen what the guy who sent the question has mentioned is that Michael Dixon, Wishnowsky, they've made some huge tackles. Go on Google, look for these hits that they've made. I mean, they don't back down because sometimes on a punt return or kick return, you'll see a kicker or punter back down and kind of, I'm going to use my bunny quotes, try to make a tackle. or they will do some sort of soccer slide where they try to trip the runner. So the Australians don't do that. They go straight in for the hit and try to make the kill. But Wilson hit the nail on the head here. The bottom line is that no matter how good a punter is at other things, whether it's throwing the ball, running the ball, is that it's not going to change much because no coach in the NFL is going to risk getting their punter hurt. As long as you only get a 53-man roster, you're not going to have 3 punters on your roster. And so if you only have 1 punter and it's one of these Australian guys and you want to start running it with him or having him in on tackles, then you risk him getting injured. And then if he gets hurt, you're down to your backup punter. Well, nobody has a backup punter. It's usually your kicker. They're not half as good as the punter is. And now you're at a disadvantage. And as Wilson mentioned again, somebody like Johnny Hekker is a good example because that is the one thing you do. If you have someone who's skilled at a certain thing, you could run more fakes. So that opens things up because, the Rams love to run fake punts with Johnny Hekker. And so I think we saw Michael Dixon actually run a fake punt out of his own end zone one time on like a 4th and 12, and he rushed it, called it on his own. The sideline didn't even call it. And he ran it because he's used to running with the old rugby ball and the football. So, so I think you could see more fake punts, but other than that, I don't think you're going to see a big change ever at the punting position.
I do think it's interesting. Did we talk about this on a podcast, Breach? About the Aussie stuff?
We talked about it recently. What was it?
I can't remember if it was on a podcast or not.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. It was the Kickers podcast when we ranked the Kickers and Punters.
The Kickers and the Punters, which if you didn't listen, I get it. It's Kickers and Punters.
And it was on a holiday. I'm not offended.
That's right.
Kind of offended.
There's been a ton of Aussie rules punters coming into college because they haven't used up their eligibility because they're from Australia and didn't go to high school in America, et cetera, didn't go to college and then figure out they wanted to punt. So these guys can come over from Australia, go to American college and punt as Aussie rule, punt as Australians. And the college coaches have been enthused about them coming over because they get the opportunity to utilize more veteran punters versus young punters. And so as a result, these punters are sort of infiltrated college football and then infiltrated the NFL level. So I don't know. I mean, I do think there's a possibility that pipeline opens up further if the punter pipeline opens up and that creates a further opening for other players. That's a possibility, I think, there. I don't know if it, and so I think guys would come down, watch Australian rules punters play and say, oh, these guys can do other stuff. Let's take a look at what the Australian players can do in the Aussie rules football. Maybe it'll carry over. So I think, yes, that could open up. I would guess that the NFL is in the same way that, there's not a game being played in Australia yet, but there should be, that the NFL is probably so hyper-focused on England and other international spots that Australia is not the primary target right now, but hopefully it will be in the future, would be my guess.
And one issue with putting a game in Australia is the fact that they are 14 hours ahead of Eastern time. So you're literally flipping time. I mean, we talk about the struggle of going to London and coming back and getting adjusted. Now it's twice as bad going to Australia because your body thinks it's daytime and it's actually nighttime, or it's nighttime and your body thinks it's daytime. So it's not easy to get used to when you're there, and then you have to readjust when you get back. So
yeah, as they like to say in Australia, that would be un problemo.
Right. And you know what though is the one thing that
I'm kidding.
Breach is like, yeah, right.
I was going to go
Spanish.
Well, the one thing when they were talking about putting a game in China a couple of years ago, they said if they were going to do it, it was going to be the opener. So the teams would have 10, go there beforehand, and then you have 10 days before your week 2 game to get readjusted. And so I think that is about the only way you could do it. So you could put an opener in Australia.
Yeah. Agree. All right. Anything else?
Good day, mate.
Good day, mate. Put another shrimp on the Bobby. And while you're there, the Bobby, make sure and crack an ice cold Bud Light. Thanks to Bud Light for sponsoring the podcast. Thanks to you guys for hanging out with us on a Monday. We'll be back tomorrow and every day this week as we get closer and closer to the NFL season. Talk to you guys later.